Welcome to Top to Bottom Male Romance Podcast, where we celebrate all things male romance. I am Jessica.
And I'm Markie.
And this is our October Bottom episode.
Yeah. So just before we get started, as usual, I wanted to bring up that we do have reader groups. We have one on Goodreads and one on Facebook. You can jump in and talk to us about our bottom picks, any cool series that you'd like to recommend, any cool comic book series, manga, cool show you watched recently, anything that has to do with male romance, you can dive in there and let us know about it. We also have a Patreon set up. Our patrons get inside information about the authors we're going to have on the show, as well as the opportunity to submit author questions. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already.
And if you haven't rated us on whatever it is you listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or anything else, please make sure to rate us and let people know that you love us so they can find us too.
Indeed. So this is going to be airing right before Halloween, so happy early Halloween, everybody.
Whee!
Whee! This is also going to be happening after GRL, so hopefully I had a super great time, but we'll dive more into that at the beginning of November. I'm also in the process of gathering up any type of horror or spooky romance stories that I could find, so anything that I find during this month, I will put in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah. So our book this month, our bottom pick is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Yes. So we're going to discuss the book a little bit, and then after we talk about the book, we'll dive into our review of Love, Simon, which is the movie that's based off of this book. So we'll get to that in a second, but I guess we can go ahead and talk about our thoughts for the book, yeah? Spoiler alert.
Yes, let's go ahead and start that with that. We're going to spoil the shit out of this book, so if you and movie. So if you haven't read or seen it yet, you might want to wait and come back to it after you have.
Yeah, because we'll probably even do something silly like dropping the identity of blue-green.
Oh, yeah. So that's probably going to happen very quickly. So... Holy shit, I love this book.
Oh, me too.
And we'd mentioned that Will and Jeff really adored both of these things, so we were already pretty excited to finally get a chance to read it. But man, this was so sweet. I loved it. It was cute and witty, and Simon is... man, it's been a while since I've fallen in love with a character so fast. Like, you can't help but adore this shit out of Simon.
Well, I mean, he loves Oreos.
Yeah, that's reading the scenes where him and Blue-Green are eating their Oreos. I'm like, the first bite, I'd be like, oh, this is good. And then after that, I think I would die. Like, there's so much cookie. But I guess when you're a teenage boy, you can eat cookies like that and it not make you want to die.
But yeah, generally the characters, I love them all. I most exceptionally, of course, love Simon because you can't not.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting because it's a YA, and I don't know that I would have originally ever thought we would be reviewing a YA.
Yeah.
Just because we so frequently talk about the sexy times, and
oh yeah.
This is a YA, so there's not really any. I mean, there's some like insinuation and whatnot, but not anything happening, and
yeah,
and regardless, still freaking fantastic.
Yeah, it was really great, and there were some really impactful themes throughout the whole book that were fantastic. Oh shit, what is the name of the kid that fucks everything up for him?
Martin. The
whole thing with Martin and how all of that plays out, and the scene where he is yelling at him in the parking lot about how he took that away from him. His coming out story basically was robbed of him. Like, oh my god, that hurt. That just was so painful, and I feel like an asshole, but when Martin starts crying, I'm like, good, fuck you. Like, I'm so glad he understands how badly he fucked up and how badly he hurt him. And I'm hoping that in the later iterations that Martin becomes a better character and like pulls his head out of his ass. I mean, he kind of did at the end of the book. Like, he's
talked about how, he really wanted to keep being friends and stuff, but...
Well, even throughout, though, I mean, yeah, he's absolutely the villain of the story, but he also has his lovable moments. I mean, and there's several times where Simon mentions, like, I guess maybe we're becoming friends, and I kind of like this guy, and what's happening to my face right now. So, and I think that's kind of part of the genius of this is that, I mean, every character has a lot of depth. And, I really want to know more about Nora.
Yeah.
So mysterious.
She's very mysterious.
I know that I haven't read the second book yet, but the second book is Leah's book.
Right.
And I really hope that Nora plays a bigger part in that because
I would assume so with the whole emojis thing.
Yeah, she's super mysterious. There's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense though because apparently in Simon's family, everything's a big deal.
Right.
Every little thing that happens is a big deal. So even telling them that when he had, a girlfriend,
right,
that was like the biggest thing. There was this sentence or this part that just really super stood out to me where he was talking about, going through changes, having any kind of experience and coming out the other side, a different person because you're learning and growing. It's like you have to reintroduce yourself to the universe every single time.
Right.
And that just like hit me in the feels. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's not even like just a teenager thing because that's a heavily teenager thing because you're going through so many changes and discoveries, but like that's life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I freaking love that part. And actually, I'm halfway through my second listen of this and, I mean, it hit me again. I just, I mean, it's a really great kind of overarching theme of the whole thing. Like every time you have any kind of a change, everybody has to make a big deal of it, but that's just life.
Right.
So that was neat.
Yeah, I like that. This book was, even though it's YA and about a theater kid discovering himself, it's a book I think everybody absolutely can relate to. Like Albertalli does a really good job kind of like making it to where it, like you said, it's not just a teenager thing, it's a life thing. Like these are things anybody, no matter what your sexual orientation is or point in your life, can identify with. So yeah, it was really good. I did the audio as well, and I've only listened to it one time through, but it's very tempting to do it again because it was so good. And the voice actor for Simon is great. I can't imagine Simon's voice any other way now, so I loved it.
Yeah, I'll also have to bring up my favorite out of book experience of this ride of reading Simon was you texting me saying how much you identify with Drunk Simon.
Oh my god! Yes, Drunk Simon is so me. I was like, oh, this is what it's like dealing with me as a drunk. This is it. So spoiler alert, Drunk Simon is also Drunk me. That is, we are twinsies. Although I don't think I've ever had an adorable gay man buy me shots, so that's something to look forward to. Yeah, that was super sweet. I love that scene a lot too, because as soon as the do you remember the drunk guy's name at all?
I don't.
I just remember being like, "You're Peter." But as soon as he found out that he was 17, he was like, "Oh, honey, no."
Who are you with? Let me take you to your people.
Yeah, just here you go. Be 17. You're cute.
And he's established as a lightweight so early. Like the very first party, the Halloween party, he has one beer and he's like every stoned teenager ever, but he just had one beer.
Yeah.
And so he has was it 2 shots and an appletini, I think?
Something like, whoa, dude, pump the brakes. Yeah, I love that scene so much.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm kind of pissed off at Nick and Abby for actually taking him back to his house.
Oh my god, how much of a stupid teenager move is that? I was like, oh, you guys, oh my god, you're so teenagers. This is so bad. Abort.
What makes you think this is a good idea? Yeah. How could this possibly end well? You're going to send him into the house with his parents while he is trashed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His parents handle it very well. Like, Simon's parents are awesome. Like, I know that they make a big deal out of everything and he's dealing with that, but man, I would have been so fucking dead if that was me as a kid. Like, my parents are very awesome people, but they were not level-headed like that when I was a teenager, so... Oh, Simon, lucky man. But yeah, it was awesome. I remember when we were both listening to it at the same time, I definitely showed my age because I was confused as to why they kept calling it the Tumblr. Do you remember that conversation?
Right, and it's the school's Tumblr. He was talking about this specific account,
but I didn't
Tumblr.
know that, so I was like, is it supposed to be the Tumblr? I've only ever just called it Tumblr. Like, is that how the kids say it? I don't understand. And then you were like, no, it's the school's Tumblr. Like, that's why. I was like, oh my god, I totally missed that completely. But anyway, I digress. Also, I don't think I've ever listened to, what is the band? Elliott Smith.
Elliott Smith.
Yeah. I need to do that now.
Yeah, Elise Waltz number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, there's actually several mentions of bands that I am super out of touch and like not aware of anything cool.
Yeah,
so
same. We're like 2 30-year-old ladies trying to identify with a 17-year-old culture, and I'm like, is it the Tumblr? Who's Elliott Smith? God, we're so lame.
I mean, we're all right.
We do okay. I mean, we have a podcast, so at least we're a little hip.
Slightly with it.
We're rad. We can still say that?
No, but I do. So we haven't watched the movie yet.
No, we haven't. I'm really excited. I have really high expectations for this because Will and Jeff. I know they went to go see it like 5 times or something ridiculous.
And every time we're referring to Will and Jeff, we're talking about Will and Jeff from Will and Jeff's Big Gay Fiction podcast,
right.
Which is also awesome. And if you're not already listened to it, you should absolutely go and do that because they're great. And they actually do videos as well, which is awesome.
As an aside, do you remember? Have you seen their picture of them coming back from Disney World?
Yes.
So cute.
Yeah. Also follow them on Facebook because they're adorable.
They are. But yeah, I know that they really loved it. They went and saw it in theaters when it first came out a couple times. So we're gonna watch that, and I'm assuming it's pretty close to the book. I know that every time that you have a book adaptation to for a movie, nope, I said that backwards. Every time you have a movie adaptation of a book, certain things are going to have to get shaved or changed to flip-flop around. But I want to say they stick pretty close.
So I have not even watched a trailer for this, but I did kind of dive into the IMDb so I could silently judge the casting, because casting is really important. As a book reader, I feel a certain level of unfounded entitlement as to who they pick for characters. Have you looked at any of these yet?
I know what Simon looks like because he's on the cover.
He's on the cover.
But I don't know what everybody else looks like.
A couple of things. One, I want to say that the person I pictured as Cal Price is exactly who they picked. Like that, the person,
really?
the casting for Cal Price is who I imagined as the character.
Oh, cool.
So well done, guys. I'm a little concerned about their choice for Leah. I'm showing, this is Catherine Langford.
My God.
She's most popularly known for being in 13 Reasons Why.
Okay.
She's real pretty. She's a good actress. But that's almost kind of my problem. Leah's supposed to be a heavyset character.
Right.
That's kind of one of her things. That's
what she struggles with. Like, she's got self-esteem issues because of that.
Right. And so I trust that the movie has done what they can with that, as, either giving her depth other ways or whatever. But I gotta say, while I think the attitude is dead on with that actress for Leah, I'm a little concerned about the lack of her being chubby.
Yeah, yeah. Leah, I really identified with Leah. Like, Leah was very much how I was in high school, except I wasn't nearly as witty as she was. But like her obsession with the yaoi and Japanese culture and being like heavyset and stuff, I was like, if I was a cooler person in high school, I would have been Leah. So
yeah, I'm actually really excited to read her book. I know she's apparently secretly bi.
Ooh, exciting.
Like, kind of looking at the rest of these.
Oh, Bram.
Yeah, shh. And
no, we said we were going to spoil things.
I know. I'm a little off about Nick because I thought Nick was supposed to be like Jewish. He doesn't look.
No, Bram's Jewish. No, you're
they're
right.
both
They're
Jewish.
both Jewish.
Because remember the whole thing about Nick's bar mitzvah and boom boom pow and all that. I really hope there is a flashback scene for that.
Oh my god, I'm excited.
But yeah, that's Cal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not as hip with casting as you are because I'm really bad with remembering actors and actresses and all that. We could have a whole podcast episode about this. Is when we read books, you typically cast people.
Sometimes.
Well, the ones that you really, really like. You're
well,
like,
if a character in my head just like matches a person I've seen in a movie, TV show, or like, real life. That also happens. I've cast real life people in books before.
Yeah.
Like that'll happen. Like I think that Cal is the only person I pictured as like an actual actor in my head. Like I have visual representations in my head of what these people look like.
Right.
But so rarely does it ever fit that ever. So, yeah. Fun fact. So we're gonna pause this. We're going to watch the trailer. And then come back with thoughts on that, and then we'll go on from there.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, we're back. I have to say I'm a little confused.
Okay. I think a lot of the things you saw are like maybe hypothetical situations in his head.
Well, okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Right off first thing in the trailer, it shows him looking at Bram.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wow, okay, just fucking gave it away. But we also go into this knowing what the ending is. So if we didn't know, maybe it just means that he was just like looking at somebody or something. We'll see how it plays out in the movie to see if it, because in the book, I had no idea it was Bram. Like I figured it out way towards the end. I was like,
I had a thought myself early, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there kept being evidence, but I kind of wanted it to be Cal too, which made me feel like an asshole. But the other thing was that there was this little snippet of him kissing Cal. What was that?
I don't know. Again, but it's like he's standing somewhere with a Christmas tree. So I'm thinking maybe he's just thinking about it.
In the book, at Christmas was when the Tumblr post came out that Martin posted.
Yeah.
That made him not accidentally, but forcefully come out in the most obnoxious of ways.
Yeah, but like in the book, Cal doesn't ever... He goes and like kind of, hey, I'm bi, and like hints at maybe going out and hanging out sometime, but they never actually move on that at all. So... either they completely change it in the movie, or it's like Simon fantasizing about like...
Well, because he has a crush on Cal.
Yeah,
like,
he does.
He does.
So it works if it's like a daydream. I mean, if they make it to where they actually kiss or something, I will be surprised.
Yeah. Fun fact, actually, after watching that trailer, I realized I've seen it before, but I hadn't watched it with any context to the story itself, which changes it. Because I remember the whole thing at the I like your boots.
Yeah.
I remember that we actually watched that at your house. I think when we were doing the whole Yuri on Ice thing. So I almost said Yuri's Night because
nice
words. Yeah. So I think now is a good time to make some drinks.
Yes.
Get some snacks.
Sounds good.
And watch some Simon.
Yeah.
All right. So we will be back. For you guys in just a few seconds to give you our immediate reactions, because we will, as soon as the movie is over, we're going to come back and push record and give you our unfiltered reactions.
Perfect. So we just finished up watching Love, Simon. I will say, to begin this, a little controversial. What the fuck? Bieber was not a golden retriever. A little pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely stood out to me as well as
Yeah.
a major incongruity to the... Nope. Is that the word? As something that stood out is not with the book. And so, fun fact about me is I am an asshole. I have a really hard time going from book to movie.
Mm-hmm.
When something it's not the same.
Right.
I have a hard time getting over it, and it's worse when I have recently read the thing that the movie is about. So before I go off on that, I will say I did like it. It was, especially the end, like, all of my... But that's not how it was in the books that happened throughout us watching this with our vodka tonics. the ending still made me all warm and fuzzy and happy.
Right. The movie itself, overall, sweet and wonderful, and I really love it. But I think if you are one of those people who get hung up on the
book continuity.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's a little hard to overcome with this one because there are parts of the story in the book that I feel were very important that they either completely changed or kind of glossed over.
The most important being,
mm-hmm.
to me at least, the fact that both Bram and Simon in the book were like kind of introverty, like they're not partiers, they
mm-hmm.
kind of felt aside from the crowd. And the first thing they do, instead of Bram not even being at the Halloween party, he's throwing the Halloween party.
Right.
And then they play beer pong and do karaoke.
Right. And I think one of the reasons why I really identified with Simon and Bram is they're the awkward, nerdy kids who didn't do any of the cool, popular things. Because, and this is super self-serving, but I was one of those kids, right? Like,
right.
I was the nerdy one who didn't go to the parties and da-da-da. So I could relate to Simon and Bram a bunch because I was that kid. I was the nerdy one who wasn't invited to shit. So when they were talking about staying home and being lame or Simon having the one beer and being like, woo, like that was, that's me when I was, that age. So I was sad that they made them like kind of party kids, but at the same time, having to fit the culture and what's progressing the story along and all that good stuff. And we had paused the movie to look at the differences because in the book, Simon was a Dementor and in the movie he was
John Lennon.
Yeah. And we were like, what the fuck? So we paused it and we looked at the difference or the time gap between when the movie came out and the book release, and it was 3 years?
Yeah.
So I feel like they decided to, instead of leaning heavily on the Harry Potter element of it. It was Harry Potter, right?
I hate you.
I love you. I'm sorry. Was it Harry Potter?
Yes.
Okay. They decided to go with something maybe a little bit more universal, so then maybe it aged better. Like I get where they're coming from, but I'm
sorry. Harry Potter is timeless, and you.
I love you, and I agree with you. I see maybe what they were trying to do, but I still disagree because I love the fact that he was a Dementor and that's nerdy and nobody knew what it was. And it was cute. So anyway, I digress. That was one of the things, and the whole Leah being in love with him and not Nick. What the hell was that? That was so painful to me because I was like, no. And they hint on that heavily, and we had looked at each other during that part in the movie going like, oh god, I hope that's not what they're doing. And spoiler alert, turns out what they're doing, and I don't like that at all. And again, movie's great. We're just being assholes at this point, but it's just like I don't understand why they changed it to that. Like that doesn't make sense to me other than like just drama, but I don't know. So, and I have another pinned tangent, but I'll let you talk before I go off on it.
Yeah. I don't really want to shit on the movie because it was good.
Right.
Another thing, so Martin in the book
right.
was kind of spastically lovable.
Mm-hmm.
In like he was still in the wrong, but there was still moments where Simon was like, maybe he's becoming my friend, ? Right. Or I'm feeling a little in love with everybody, including Martin. And like there was redeemability in there. And even in the part where Simon's yelling at him for all that shit and he feels genuinely bad and still fuck that guy, but like he still feels genuinely bad. There was no real redemption for Martin in this.
Yeah, I mean, at the very end of the movie, he comes forward and gives him money so he can keep riding the Ferris wheel. So that was like his really super lame attempt at being redeemable.
It's something, it gave him the last,
Yeah, but in the book, you can tell he's struggling through this point, especially because his brother's gay, about realizing that he stole Simon's coming out, which is really important. And he
that's his character arc, right? Is realizing that he made a horrible mistake. And in the book, you feel bad for him because it's just a stupid kid. But in the movie, he just feels like a skeevy bastard and not somebody who you can really love. Like, okay, sure, he gave him extra bucks for the ticket because he felt bad, like, after he realized he was being a dick. But it didn't feel like a growing moment. It just felt convenient. And again, I felt horrible because really, honestly, the movie's really good, but coming off of the book, which is I adore so much, and we had such a high standard for this movie, I was a little sad that they kind of downplayed that. And the thing that really, I think, stood out was the Ferris wheel scene.
Mm-hmm.
They turned something that I felt was very important as a private moment into something that was
a spectacle.
And that kind of, it didn't upset me. That's the wrong word because that's a little heavy for a sweet movie. But everybody was cheering like, oh yay!
Kind of rubbed you the wrong way,
right?
I agree, because in that situation, instead of it being, because in the book, Bram didn't say, okay, I'm done or anything like that. They still had the communication through email. In this, because everybody was watching and waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, and everyone was like cheering and like.
So you think the way to like make this right is to make him publicly out himself in front of the whole fucking school?
No.
That's clearly something he's not ready to do.
Right.
I mean, it was really sweet.
From the other side of it, I see, like, I see where they're coming from. Like, you know, it should be celebrated, and Bram being brave enough to be, you know, who he really is, and of course that should be celebrated and should be this, you know, held up on a pedestal. But at the same time, it being a private moment between the two of them, where it's not something where it could be championed. It's just a normal interaction between two 17-year-old kids who are trying to discover themselves. That's so fucking important.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the movie is trying to do, though, is normalizing it, and everybody would cheer for it, and this is a great and normal and awesome thing, and it should be. It absolutely 100%. Should. That's utopia. Like, that's...
Right, everyone should fucking applaud when you find true love. Like, of course that's celebrated. That's why weddings are a fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's why this is important. But I feel like it almost made it cheesy when this moment in the book was, like, it was so impactful.
It was intensely moving.
Yeah.
When it happened in the book. Like, that whole thing, like, I was, like, holding my breath.
Right. I wanted so badly for Blue Green to show up. And then when he did, it was just like this, you know, what they said in the movie where his mom was like, you get to exhale. Like, that's what it felt like in the book, is when Bram finally came to him and was like, hey, you know, I like your shirt, you know, that kind of shit. That was like, you know, like you finally get that moment of being able to release your breath. And it felt like for this, it was cheesy. But at the same time, since this is a movie, it's not the same audience who maybe have read the book, so it's playing to a different crowd, and they want to celebrate it and normalize it and things. But that was the one that really stood out to me as far as something I loved, and I was smiling, and I was like, oh, it's sweet, I love it, and, you know, happy. But at the same time, I couldn't help but think, like, it was so good in the book, and then in the movie, it just seems like a rom-com or something. But I don't know. But again, we're those people. We're so much those people. Like, when we watch Game of Thrones, we're the ones who go, well, the book, blah, blah, blah. You know, like, it's whatever. I will say, you started this whole episode when you were talking about how Nora was mysterious and
right. Yeah,
and she's so not that in the fucking movie.
They removed Alice from the whole book, the older
Alice
sister.
does not fucking exist.
Which, okay, so I'm gonna be okay with all of that, because there's so much about Nora and I'm assuming Alice that sets up for later books. Like, this is a series, right?
Right.
And the movie is clearly meant to be a standalone.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly meant to be its own thing, just one thing. And so they didn't need to build any of that up.
Mm-hmm.
Nora in the movie, I actually did like.
She was sweet, and she was a chef in this instead of like just a quiet badass of like a band. So it was cute, and I liked it, and she was still supportive of Simon and stuff, but she didn't have that like cool mystique, you know, factor to it, which I really loved.
Yep.
Another thing, what was it? Damn it, I had something and I lost it. Yeah, they didn't touch on the emoji thing at all, so nobody was in a band.
Right,
so
well,
that was kind of bummed.
Again, that's set up for the next book kind of thing.
That's fine.
He never, in the book, came right out and asked Cal.
No, he didn't. It was the email thing I was going to say.
Oh, yeah!
Yeah, what the hell is that? Why did they change the email? It seems so trivial. Like, why would they change it to looking out your window or something
From
like
my window.
Yeah.
Not even an Elliott Smith song, but he had hour to hour, note to note written on his chalkboard wall.
Right.
And he had an Elliott Smith poster on his wall, so...
Yeah, why did they change it?
Good question.
I don't know. I don't get it.
I feel that is something I could probably Google and tell you, but I left my phone in the other room, so
It's fine. This is more just us, just airing our grievances. I don't understand why that was changed. It seems so trivial, but it was something we got hung up on because we paused that and we're like, okay, look. we were so pissy about it, but then we saw it on the back of the wall and that made us even more mad. But it's just little things like that I don't understand why they changed it. And this is us coming, literally, we finished the movie, we stopped it, and we came in here to review it, or, whatever, talk about how we feel about the movie. So this is all very fresh.
Yeah, no filters, so sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So we have a lot of ranty things. And again, we've said this a couple times, and I'm so sorry, but the movie is really good and it's sweet and wonderful, but I feel like if you've read the book and you have an attachment to it, watching this movie kind of makes you feel like a dick because you notice those little things that shouldn't matter but do in the grand scheme of things. But I feel like they made the movie more
accessible to the masses?
Yeah.
I think that's fine, though.
Yeah, it is. It's very fucking important.
Yeah. It feels... We come from a different angle of already completely embracing this world.
Yeah.
And everything about it is normalized to us.
Right.
And this was a mainstream movie, and the world needed it. Yeah. It had lovable, attractive characters that were funny and relatable and gay. Mm-hmm. They should read the book, though.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things that if somebody asks if I've seen it, I'm going to be like, yeah, it's really great. But have you read the book, though? Because holy shit, the book. So maybe it's more people who aren't already in the culture and the mindset of being a normal thing. It's cute, but if you're not already in it, this is a good comfort movie, but I don't know.
Yeah, this is really interesting too because normally when we do stuff like this, I've done research and looked at what the community says about things. And I kind of feel like a jerk. I didn't. This was pure recommendation of hearing from somebody whose opinion I completely trust, Will and Jeff.
Right.
And grabbing that book and reading it and loving it. And knowing that they love the movie and jumping into it. I don't know what the outside world thinks, and now I am incredibly curious and wish I would have known that before we recorded this episode.
I feel like I would assume that the culture in general embraces movie because it's a mainstream success, but I don't know. And Will and Jeff are spot on. This movie is wonderful and sweet and the best kind of feel-good movie. I mean, happily ever after kind of shit. And it ends with them, being in the car together, and Bram's part of the gang, and it's so sweet, and I fucking love that because it's so normal, and, the part with his dad, and...
There's the part with... That's what I want to talk about. The parts with both of his parents. Those were, that's what one would hope for, because it's almost like you can't escape what the outside world is going to say and do.
Right.
That is not anything anybody can control because there's a whole bunch of assholes out there.
Right.
But one would hope that what you have at home is what's going to be able to make you okay.
Right.
They're going to be okay and happy with you and still love you. And that's there was almost tears for me with his dad.
Sweet.
Oh my God.
Very sweet. His mom was you get to exhale, and I knew, but I didn't want to pry, and that was so sweet. And his mom is wonderful, but his dad was the one you could tell had that uneasiness on both sides, because his dad realized he fucked up and didn't know how to make it better, and Simon of course thought like, you know, what does my dad think of me and all this stuff, and you know, his dad being a big old jock crybaby was super sweet, and I really love that angle that they took. So I very much appreciate that, and I really love that they put that in there, because that is a, you know, hallmark moment where it punches you right in the feels kind of thing. It was super sweet.
And I will say that they probably played on that more than they did in the book, because there was definitely a lot of stuff with the parents, especially when he came back as drunk Simon from the thing with the stuff. And there was that really hard moment between him and his dad, but I don't remember there being any of these like heart squeezing moments of perfectness with the parents. Like, there was acceptance absolutely and love totally, because that's how those parents are, but the movie did hit the feels harder with the parental part.
Right. Well, and I think in the book the parents were already very, very liberal and very open.
Yeah.
So it was more like Simon knew they would be accepting, but he was more uneasy with them making it a big deal.
Absolutely.
So it played more on that than actually worried about them being accepting, which they kind of played more on in the movie. So,
and I think that's again important for
because that's the biggest scare nowadays, and realistically, it is terrifying, because you really don't know what, you know, people are going to think of you, and especially with a lot of gay people who come out to their parents who they get opposite reactions, right? So making it show that, like, you know, his dad being like the jock super dude, being totally okay and accepting of his emotions and okay with his gay son, like, that should be the bar. I totally get that.
And they address that in the book too, where they say there's some parents that, you know, say they're super cool with everything, but then as soon as it's their kid, they freak out about it. And then there's parents that are completely anti-gay, and then their kids come out and all of a sudden they're at pride parades.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a really real thing. That.
Yeah, it's rough, and something that is in and of itself something that neither one of us can relate to, and we're removed from it, so it's hard for us to be able to understand it from that angle. But being who we are and in the culture, we understand how impactful it is and how important it is, and this movie did a very, very good job to normalize it and making it a wonderful family bonding moment, and making it realistically awkward, because that's exactly what it is right now. It's the best scenario you could have is it being realistically awkward, and the worst scenario being the other direction. But the best thing you could hope for is an awkward parent being like, oh, good, you know, like, not knowing what to say, and that's so fundamentally important.
I did love the scene of them coming out as straight.
Yeah, oh my god, especially with Abby's mom being like, "Oh Lord, help me, Jesus!" Like, I fucking lost.
You get this from your father's side.
Yeah. Oh my god. Or the one where it's Leah's and her dad just gets up and like throws the shit on the table and walks off. I was like, oh my god, I love that so much. So again, movie's great. It's very sweet. We're coming off of the tales of just reading the book. So going from book to movie and trying to condense all of that awesome into 1 hour and 55 minutes, that's fucking hard. And I understand some of the direction they went with. I don't agree with some of the other things, but I overall think it's a very wonderful fucking movie, and I love it to death.
I'm glad they still include the Oreos.
Yeah.
And most especially, they gave the shout out to the best Oreos, the Halloween ones.
Oh, that's a hot take.
You need to quit it with that.
So, yes.
So we're running long, actually.
Yeah, we are. What are we at right now?
40 minutes.
Holy shit.
I know.
we gotta let it edit out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say overall, I mean, our ratings mean nothing right now because we're riding the high of this amazing book and movie and we've been drinking, but I fucking love this movie. It's so sweet. So definitely recommend. If you read the book, go into it knowing they changed some shit. If you haven't, it's so fucking good.
I think had I known, because right before we watched this, you were like, yeah, it's probably really true to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think maybe had we known going into it that it was going to be different, there wouldn't have been so many moments of pause and me looking at you and saying, fuck.
Yeah, you know what we should have done before we started this is messaged Will and Jeff and been like, hey, so we're about to watch this. Should we know anything going into it?
So we'll do that next time.
Yeah, we're going to need to do that next time because we're catty bitches, but
we loved the movie!
We did! I can't emphasize this enough because I feel like we're really ragging on this movie and that's not fair because it's so good and it's wonderful and it's such a good feel-good movie. Like if you're having a bad fucking day, watch this movie because it's wonderful and it'll make you cry and I love it. But if you're one of those people who feel like the movie should be exactly like the book, like me and Jess, it's rough because they changed the little things that make the movie so good. Like it feels like
that make the book so good.
They make the book so good because they've changed what feels like an inside joke or something.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like the email. Like they changed the email. And that was the thing that like or Bieber. Like stupid shit that doesn't matter that makes you like, but why would you change that? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and especially I think listening to it through audio makes that email address mean
right,
more.
Because they say that so fucking much.
So much.
hour-to-hour.note-to-note@gmail.com.
Yep.
Anyway.
So, I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we're done. Please take the microphone away from me.
So we are done for our bottom episode. We do have quite a big month between the two of us, but we will still have our normally scheduled November top going up, and it will be a GRL special.
Yes. So since this is going to be a pre-recorded kind of thing, we're recording this before I go to GRL. I'm hoping that I am able to talk to everybody I want to talk to, and my microphone works and everything's great. Worst case scenario, we'll have something else super fun planned. At least me talking about how awesome GRL was. But I'm very fucking excited, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess that is it from now, and we will see you after Markie goes to GRL and I am married.
Oh my god.
I know.
This is... Guys, there's going to be a lot of shit that happens between now and then, so we'll see you on the other side, I guess.
Yeah.
So until next time.
Bye.